Mojang just changed the Minecraft piston sound, and people are predictably a little bit upset. So this is what pistons have sounded like for the longest time. This is a piston extending. This is a piston retracting. This is what something like a double piston extender sounds like. It sounds chunky. It sounds mechanical. I've grown quite fond of this sound over the years. Now, if we switch over to the latest Minecraft snapshot, it sounds like this. It's very different. It's extremely different. I mean, whereas my massive machines used to sound monstrous and mechanical, now they sound a little bit pathetic. Listen to this. This is a giant working redstone tank. And it just sounds like a bunch of Legos falling out of a bag. So I think it's time that I do something. It is time for a protest. And phase one of my protest is I've created a resource pack. It's called the Piston Protest Pack. And not only does it return the old piston sounds, but it makes them considerably louder. Now, I just want to warn you, I haven't tested this yet, so this could be absolutely deafening. But I'm going to unpause the game now. Oh god. Okay, this is worse. This is definitely worse. My goodness, what have I created? What have I created? Okay, so my protest might have slightly failed, and I will share my actual genuine thoughts on the new piston sounds later on in the video, but for now, I think this gives us a genuine opportunity to play around with sound design within piston-based redstone contraptions. You see, the sound of pistons has always been so loud in the past that... Oh, I forgot I had the resource pack on. That is a near fatal error. As I was saying, the sound of pistons in the past was so loud that it kind of overpowered all other redstone components. But now we have a kind of blank canvas to work from, and that could provide us with some interesting opportunities. Mob heads on top of note blocks. A relatively recent addition to the game is that if you place a mob head on top of a note block and then play the note block, it will actually play the sound of the mob. And although it'll be incredibly expensive to do so, I really do like the sound of the wither skeleton head on top of the note block for a certain type of piston door. Bear with me a second while I build up this thing. Okay, I couldn't help myself. I wanted to add a little bit of atmosphere to it. It's nothing special, but hopefully it should help sell the effect. Now I just have to do all of the redstone, which should be really simple, just a handful of flying machines, which I of course messed up a bunch of times. But the build is now done, it is working, and remember, this is all possible in vanilla survival Minecraft. It would be very expensive, but it is possible. So here we have a fairly mysterious looking door, and you can see we've got a little button here. When we press this button, we get a bunch of really cool things going on. Listen how cool the wither skeleton skulls sound for stone-based piston doors. It feels weird even calling it a piston door. It doesn't even sound like a piston door anymore. This thing sounds like it's been pulled straight from Indiana Jones, and that is really, really interesting, and it is not something that we would have been able to do previously in vanilla Minecraft. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, it does come at a bit of a cost. If I just pop down underneath here, you can see that I have used, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wither skeleton skulls. So that is nearly 2 beacons worth of wither skeleton skulls. And, of course, the dragon head as well. I chucked that in for good measure. It's also pretty pricey. Of course, you could do this much more efficiently. You could run 5 pulses into a single note block. But let's be real, spending any wither skeleton skulls on a redstone contraption seems expensive. Out of pure curiosity, let's hear what it sounds like without the sound effect. Oof. Now let's hear what it sounds like with the sound effect, but in the previous version of Minecraft with piston sounds. See, now that is very interesting, because let's be real, the old piston sounds completely overpowered everything. They stole the show, leaving you very little room for sound creativity. And for a final comparison, let's hear what it sounds like with Piston Protest on. Let's do a little bit more sound designing, shall we? Now, I would say that the main area that suffers when it comes to these new piston changes is with large-scale slime block flying machines, because, I mean, these things are meant to sound big, mechanical and monstrous, and now they sound like nothing, and it kind of takes a lot of the weight off the machine. Like, this no longer looks big and imposing and impressive anymore. Again, I will be sharing my genuine, slightly more fully fledged thoughts on these new piston sounds towards the end of the video. But for now, assuming that they are going to be staying in the game, let's see what I can do with this. Oh, by the way, you're looking at a leg. This is a leg. It's a leg that would normally go in a big robot, but I want to see if I can add sounds to legs. So no blocks with heads on top of them are kind of out of the question because I can't move heads. Could still use note blocks. Silly question, but I've never tried it. You can't push a bell, can you? No, you can't push a bell. I've just spent some time listening to all the sounds that note blocks can make, and none of them really match up with the mechanicalness of a leg. There is one sound that I do really like the idea of, though, but it's going to be very, very complicated, and that is the sound of an anvil falling. Oh, I mean, that would be so good if we could get that sound in there. But anvils are weird. You see, you can't push an anvil unless the anvil is falling. So the only way that I could make an anvil move forwards would be to make it fall and then push it. Oh, and that could be tricky in the world of slime block flying machines. But I think I have a bit of an idea. So we've got part of a module here. Anvil sits on top of it. When these slime blocks get pulled along, anvil moves. Okay, that is the obvious and easy part. Next part of the process will be making sure that the anvil doesn't move that far. Will that work? So here goes. Oh, gosh. Oh, that's not the outcome that I wanted. It just disappeared. What does that even mean? Okay, I'm going to be honest. Things are a little bit bigger than I would want them to be right now. But there is a small chance that this will work. Okay, well, it didn't disappear. I've dropped everything one block further down. That was actually good. Okay. Okay, this is... Okay, we've managed to get our anvil to be an entity. Now we just need to make the whole thing even bigger. And it should... now all work. There is our moving anvil sound creator. Now let's just quickly install one of those onto one of these massive legs and then add in a bit of a motor, and this thing should be all good to go. I genuinely have no idea what to expect. I will say my expectations are not particularly high for this one, although I am incredibly curious. It's so bad. It's almost worse than the silence because it's out of sync, and this leg, it travels 2 blocks every single time it takes a step, whereas this is making a noise every single block. I mean, it's honestly almost so bad that it's good. Oh, and now the anvil is broken as well. Okay, it went a grand total of about 15 blocks. That is much, much less than I expected it to go. So I think now it's time that we discuss the sound of the elephant in the room. Although I've been presented with a handful of opportunities to get really creative today, which I've massively enjoyed, I can't say I'm the biggest fan of this new sound. Look, I am not someone that really criticizes Mojang for what they're doing. I always kind of understand their perspective. I always see things through their eyes and try and understand what they're getting at. And although I don't necessarily agree with some of the decisions they make, I'm not really one to massively criticize them. But I personally would say that Pistons have quite a distinct sound. You know, they have... There's something about them that is part of the fabric of Minecraft, at least to me. I know I'm incredibly biased because I've been working with them for many years, but I do feel like others will feel the same way. And that's not to say that they were perfect. I do agree they were way too loud in older versions of Minecraft, and they definitely overpowered basically every other component inside of a redstone contraption. For better or for worse, they were definitely the main characters. I definitely think I'm open to change, but I just don't think this is the right change. I think Pistons have lost a lot of their weight. They've lost a lot of their mechanicalness. They now just sound, I don't know, a bit wet. Like, seriously, levers sound heavier than pistons, and I feel like that's just slightly imbalanced. I don't necessarily think you should bin this sound. I do actually think it will work quite well for dispensers, droppers, potentially crafters. You know, there's all sorts of different components that it could work for, but pistons need something a little bit chunkier. And my personal recommendation would be something a little bit like this.